Hi, everyone. Welcome to Eternal Life Plan. I'm your host, Christine Harrington, and we have more news about Church Militant. And I'll be frank with you, I'm a little still reeling. I just came off of a phone conversation with a young man. I've had 4 young men come forward about their experiences with Church Militant and Michael Voris. And I got to be honest, I'm still reeling from that conversation. These young men are not coming forward. I don't want them to come forward, to be honest with you, because of the information that is very explosive. I'm not trying to sensationalize any of this, but I would be irresponsible if I brought them on. And that's why I'm choosing not to. Um, Honestly, all they want is someone to hear their story. And I've been able to confirm and collaborate that what they're telling me is valid. At least their identity and their connection to Church Militant is valid. So it just keeps getting worse and worse. So, the point of this broadcast today is to talk about the misinformation that is all out there on social media and by podcasters who have never worked at Church Militant, like I've worked at Church Militant, do not have any association with people that have worked at Church Militant, like I've worked at Church Militant and have those associations, but yet they know all about Church Militant. All the reporting is rumors, innuendos. That's it. So I appreciate you coming to my channel to be able to get the information. Specifically, I want to talk to you about Christine Niles. There's this whole thing going on about Christine Niles, that she was complicit in all of this. She covered up, and she did not. I know that for a fact. She did not. And I get that there are people that want me to be totally transparent, but I can't be to protect my sources. And I can't be in all situations because I don't want to put these young men in harm's way. I will tell you what I absolutely can tell you. Okay. You can count on me to do that. But there's some things going on out there that are being said about Christine Niles that is not true. I asked Christine to come on the show, and she is declining all media outlets. She has been asked by all kinds of people to come on their shows, and she's declining it all. I get why she wants to do that for now. She's trying to rebuild her life, and she's trying to distance herself, and she's trying to put the pieces together too. So what she did do, though, is she did give me a statement. And let me read you her statement. I wish to protect the privacy and dignity of my former colleagues. I understand critics are on a witch hunt against me and others at Church Militant, looking for someone to blame, but the situation is not as cut and dried as people think. Hindsight is always 20/20, and it's easy to judge from the outside. When you're in the middle of it, put in an extremely awkward and difficult situation as a longtime employee, it's not always clear what should be done. Prayer and reflection are required. I stand before God knowing I acted rightly and with a clear conscience, and that I brought all evidence to the board as soon as I became aware of it. I've also recently found out that Church Militant is trying to implement changes to the board and moving in a new and better direction. If that's the case, I'd be glad to encourage people to support them once more. A lot of good people were left behind at Church Militant, and they do deserve our support, or they do deserve to be supported. I don't think any of other board members were aware of anything going on in his private life, but you can ask them directly. And we'll get to that in a minute. I personally never witnessed grooming during my time there. I saw a lot of friendly joking around in the studio with the guys, but that's all I saw it to be. Michael Voris was a good and honorable man for a long time. I considered him a friend. I would never have worked at Church Militant for so long if I had detected even a hint of deception. Over the past couple of years, I did not see him much. He was in the studio for brief periods each day. We would have infrequent conversations, but that was pretty much it. I was focused on my work and my family, and I was certainly not keeping tabs on his private life. I never detected anything. I'm not interested in dancing on Michael Voris's grave. He is suffering, humiliated, ashamed, and quite possibly struggling with despair. I'm not interested in adding to his sufferings. My hope now is to move forward with my life and pray for him and his rehabilitation for all those left hurting. Okay, let me help you understand why Christine Niles may not have observed some of the things that I observed when I was in the studio. So I'm just going to say this again. I know I've said it on numerous videos, but I just keep getting these comments saying, you never worked at Church Militant. What are you talking about? Or another podcaster is saying I was part-time. I was not part-time. So I was hired in September 2021. I began working at Church Militant in October of 2021. I went into the studio 1 week out of the month. The other 3 weeks of the month, I worked remote out of my house from 8 until 5 or however long they needed me, because my job was to write the scripts for evening news. So my scripts went into the teleprompter that the anchors of evening news read during the broadcast. That's what I did at Church Militant. Okay. I resigned. I thought it was the 1st of April, but I did find my resignation letter, and it was like April 21st of 2022. That was my letter of resignation. So to give you an idea of the studio, the back of the studio was the stage for evening news. In front of that were the editors. And then in front of that was the pit where the reporters sat. Now, there was a line of reporters on one side, and then in the middle was a group of reporters and managers. And Michael Voris sat on the very end. So he had complete access to all the reporters. Since I was new, I sat on the side in the front of the studio where they shot the headline news. So I had a clear-eye view of Michael Voris all the time. I had a clear-eye view of the reporters as well. So Christine Niles was sitting all the way to the side in back of Michael. There wasn't a whole lot she would have been able to see because of where she was positioned in the studio. She was in the back, not with the reporters, not with Michael, but more to the side and to the back. So it would have been very hard for her to see what was going on. I could, because I had a clear-eyed view of everything. So that'll give you kind of a scope of why I may have seen things that Christine Niles did not. Now, keep in mind, the evening news hours were different. So my hours were 8 to 5. The evening news hours were, they usually came in at 11:30. They went to chapel, sometimes mass. And then evening news, as you know, was from 7 to 8. So they worked from 11:30 until way after evening news was over. So a lot of the reporters that came in, they came in about the same time Michael did in the afternoon, or late, I should say late morning, around 11:30, and went to chapel. When Michael was in during the morning, though, he did not go to chapel. And we saw less and less of him as 2022 started unfolding that year. So that kind of gives you a layout of why I believe Christine that she said she didn't see anything, and why I saw things. Now, this is typically what people do. Keep in mind, I was new there, right? I was new there. I was trying to figure out the lay of the land, the politics within the office, all of that stuff. And when I started observing things, I even questioned myself. Oh, surely I didn't see that. Oh, surely I misinterpreted that. Oh, surely, his hand didn't linger too long on his arm. Not that a hand lingering on an arm meant that you were grooming someone, but when you're in a work environment, and any of you that have worked in a work environment, what the kind of the protocol of corporate behavior is, or work behavior is, and what you have to be careful with, right? I mean, we're all conscious of it. So, what people are saying about her coming into the studio stumbling drunk, I told you, I never, ever witnessed Christine coming into the studio drunk. When we had working dinners, she would have a glass of wine. I would have a glass of wine. Sometimes she didn't even finish her glass of wine. So let me say this. Unless it comes from her or me, I would not, or David Gordon, or anyone within Church Militant or former employees, I would not believe anything that all these other people think they know what is going on, because they don't. I have seen interviews of other podcasters that were interviewed by other podcasters that flat out lied about everything, but yet they think they know what's going on. They don't. I am telling you, folks, they don't. So I really appreciate that you come back to my channel and you listen to my observations and my experiences when I worked at Church Militant. It was a 5 short months or 6 short months. Keep that in mind. It wasn't long, folks. It was just a very short time. But I'm an experienced woman. I have worked in the corporate environment. There are things that are on my antenna that wouldn't necessarily be on a young man or a young girl's antenna, right? Those of us that have been out in the world and lived and had a worldly experience, we know what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. Where young people that are put in those situations, they're second guessing themselves. They're thinking, well, did I cause this? Or was there something that I did that made him or her believe that I'm open to this kind of inappropriate behavior? So keep that in mind too, that these are young people. a lot of them under 30 years old who don't have worldly experiences. Okay. So I am going to start taking your questions now. That's what I wanted to talk to you about today. I wanted to read Christine Niles' statements. And I know a lot of you keep asking for transparency, but you also have to realize that there are people that are being protected, not protected in a way that that's trying to cover up, but protected in a way that Vorse doesn't come after him. I'm sure he is just devastated by all of this. So let me get through some of these things. So I hope that makes sense to you all. Pat says hi. Pat Allenhurst, hi. Thank you. So Stephen says, our interest in the truth, we need transparency and accountability and the truth, prayers for all. I come here for the straight dope. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Stephen, understood and appreciate that, Christine. Thank you. You're welcome. If this has to do with sexual harassment, tell them to file a police report and lawyer up. I did that. Thank you, Pat. I did. This young man that I just spoke to right before I came on, I told him that he needs to talk to a lawyer and get some legal advice. I do not want to expose him. I saw a podcast that claimed they have a new CEO. Is that true? Well, their new CEO that they have announced is Mike Sherry. Oh, you mean a CEO, not the president of the board? Rosemarie, can you clarify that? Okay, I think I know what you're talking about. I think I know what you're talking about. So let me see if I can find it. Hold on. So Truth Army on X says Truth Army has become aware of the challenges facing Church Militant. We have always believed the mission they hold bring truth to the masses. That is why we're formally offered to purchase all assets and move over the staff at a new entity with much needed benefits and equitable pay. We look forward to hearing from them. Okay, folks, that was reported as Truth Army is the new CEO. That is false. All they did was give an offer. That's it. It was just an offer. So the offer has not been accepted. I am positive Church Militant will get other offers as well. But that was only an offer. That was not a purchase of the assets. Okay. So let's make something else real clear here, that a nonprofit cannot be sold. Those assets belong to the donors. So you cannot sell a nonprofit. All you can do is transfer the assets and name a new CEO. So only a for-profit can be sold. Only a for-profit publicly, a public-owned company can have a, I'm just losing my mind here. Excuse me. I was going to say a board of directors, but that's not stockholders is what I'm trying to say. Only a publicly owned company can have stockholders, not a nonprofit. So there's been a misunderstanding with that as well. Nonprofits can have and are required to have a board of directors and are required to have at least yearly meetings. Niall's statement adds nothing. Well, that's sad, Atlas, because that's all you're going to get. That's just sad that you think that. You clearly are only wanting the dirt and not the truth. The donors should still demand a forensic audit. Yes, and the donors can also request to be in the meetings whenever they have the meetings. Isn't Christine Niles a defendant in a lawsuit from Mike Parrott? Perhaps that is why she won't talk about Church Militant. Um, Church Militant won a lawsuit against Mike Parrott. So I know that. I'm not supporting them anymore. I trust your podcast. Thank you, Rosemary, for your statement. Niles has apologized for nothing. She's ready to take more cash of Catholics with Forward Boldly show. I don't know what to say. I trust what she tells me. I've never caught Christine Niles in a lie. I'm not sure what more you want from her, really. Harrington has bought Niles' lies. Pitiful. Did they pay you a livable salary? Yes. Now it's my understanding that the younger reporters were paid differently. I really don't know the pay structure at Church Militant. I can tell you though that was it the most money ever made? Absolutely no, not at all. Um, it was for my area where I live in Indianapolis. It would be it would be a mid-range salary. For those in Detroit, though, it's a much higher cost of living up there. So maybe you're right, Pat. Maybe it wasn't a livable salary. Craig says, thought this grooming charge was nonsense. Well, Craig, I think you're going to find out differently. Watch Sunday. All right, let me see what else. Grooming is Vorse's middle name. He was constantly grooming. When he asked a young male employee to open his computer at home, he knew it would display the gay porn. That is grooming. Atlas, that's one I can agree with you on. And yes, that did happen. A young male employee was at his home. Michael greeted him without a shirt on, which I have heard numerous times from young men that that is true, that he did that. There's a pattern of behavior. And, um, and this young man saw the gay porn, and Forrest would have had to known that it was there. Niles is currently trying to flip the script on the doxing of Mike Parrott, claiming he doxed her, even though the evidence shows otherwise. Actually, that's not true. And I know that for a fact. It was Parrott that doxed her. I want to see their financial statements. Their 990s should be at the bottom of their website. Like I said on a previous video, they're about 2 years behind posting. But the actual numbers of the 990 tells a lot. So you could go to the 990s at the bottom of their website. I think it's called under financial statements, and you can see it there, Pat. It's a disgrace. Niles has apologized for nothing. Subscribers didn't know that they were spending so much on lawsuits, which Niles was heavily involved in. Um, yes, they were spending quite a bit of money on the lawsuits, and it was never discussed with the board, is my understanding, is what I was told by my sources, multiple sources, that it was never discussed with the board. So Craig asks Atlas, you act like you were there and know this for a fact. Atlas, so here's a question. Did you ever work for Church Militant? Yes or no? Would you put it in the comments, please? Okay. The computer incident was reported by Christine Harrington. That's correct. I was the one that said that the young man went over to Vors. He opened up his laptop and he saw porn playing. And David Gordon also reported it as well. And it was one of the articles that was evidence that was given to the board. The young man involved chose to be anonymous, did not want to come forward unless it was necessary, then he would. So it was one of the evidence that was sent to the board on Vors's inappropriate behavior. So why is Simon Rafe still there? Good question. Oh, and that reminds me, I asked that. Uh, I didn't ask if they plan on firing Simon Rafe, but I did ask the Simon Rafe questions. And at the end, I will go through those questions. I sent the Church Militant today at 3 o'clock, and they did not respond at the time of this recording. In all fairness, I only gave them a couple of hours. So if they do respond, I will let you know. Harrington is just rambling today. Yes, I apologize for that. I got off of a disturbing phone call right before I came on, And next time I will wait until after broadcast to make and take those calls. Former premium subscriber, in the same way that some bishops did not observe what their priests did in private, Niles cannot know all that Voris was doing. Yeah, thanks, James. That's exactly right. None of us can. I mean, even those working there with him all through the day, we can't know what he's doing when he doesn't show up to the studio. Niles has a legal background. She wants to play it safe, either with Voris or the donors. Pat, do you blame her? Do you really blame her? So, Christine, just the facts on the grooming charges. I'm going to go into it on Sunday. I've written a whole thing on this for the monologue. I'm not trying to sidestep it, but it's something that I am working on for Sunday's broadcast. And I would prefer, Craig, if you don't mind, and hopefully you'll watch on Sunday, I will go through it then. Okay? Thank you. Michael Voris' appearance changed enormously. It was glaringly obvious he had embraced his previous lifestyle. How could anyone else not know? Continued to give money to a fake degenerate. Yeah, I would agree with that because, he was going to the gym, he was going to sun tanning beds. So yes, that's true. Not that if you go to the gym or you go to some tanning beds, that means that you're gay. Not at all. Not at all. That's not what I'm saying. Any truth regarding Joe Gallagher wanting to buy CM? Well, Joe Gallagher is the one that I just talked about in his Truth Army. That's Joe Gallagher's media company. So he's the one that has put out feelers and a proposal to Church Militant to move those assets over if they agree to it. Stephen says, what exactly is the position of Simon Rafe, and is he still there, and what role or capacity? It's my understanding that Simon is still there. He was in a position which I referred to as the employee gatekeeper to Michael Voris, kind of a chief of staff who, it all stopped with Simon. Unless you were able to catch Voris on the side, which, I was one that wasn't allowed to talk to him. But if you had any employee beef, then you would go to Simon, which nothing ever happened. From what I was told, some of the things I observed, I talked to other employees about what was the best way to approach it. And they, without going into details with them, just to kind of feel who would be I'm new there, right? Who would be the right person to approach? And it was always, well, you got to go to Simon. You got to go to Simon. You got to go to Simon. And just observing Simon in the studio, I could tell without a doubt that I was never going to approach the man. Now, Christine Chrisleap has stated on my the smoke of Satan inside of Church Militant, she stated that she did go to Simon and asked for a whistleblower policy because she saw some of the same things that I saw. And those things are, let me get into that. So whenever a certain reporter would walk into the room, Michael's eyes would just, his whole face and eyes would light up. It was the person that he was always talking to. It was the person that he was always asking out to dinner, to lunch, to come over to his house. He was the golden boy. And it was just obvious that this person had been singled out by Voris as the golden boy. So, like I said, on Sunday, we've got a mystery guest coming in, and we're going to go through some of these scenarios. Okay. It's been said that there are 3 entities that are interested in acquiring Church Militant. Besides Truth Army, are there any offers that you know of, and who are they? Thank you. I do know of one that walked away, and that entity can come forward if they want to. I'm not going to talk about it. They're kind of wanting to distance themselves now after they found out some things. But I only know about Truth Army, and the other entity walked away. I can tell you that. So let me read through these a little more. Did Christine Niles see the in-house semi-nude, semi-porn photos you showed and described? Any who needed to intervene under admonish the center work of mercy? Yes, she did. Yes, she did, and she took it to. It was part of the letter that she sent to the board to get some action done. When she learned of all of this, she went to the board. Francisco says, how old are the young men who came forward? They're all under 20. Or, I'm sorry. They're all under 30, not 20. They're all under 30. Yorkie says, what happens on Sunday and where? I have a live, or it won't be a live stream, ladies. Ladies and gentlemen, we're recording this in studio, and then it'll be released at 7 p.m. Sunday evening on my YouTube channel. And when you watch, you'll know why that we chose not to go live. At one point, I believe we heard that Michael and his brother were abused as boys by priests. Is this factor being considered in the various discussions? I have not heard that, but a lot of times men that abuse have been abused. So I don't know who abused Michael Voris. I believe there was abuse in his past, and that's one of the things that he really needs to get help with. So interesting. Church Militant's headquarters is in a very gay friendly city. Yes, Ferndale, which is a town outside of Detroit, is known as a gay community where Church Militant's headquarters is. That's true. Is it true that Michael Vors had a homosexual relationship with a priest? I have no idea at all. No idea if he did. Um, I can only imagine who said that. A lot of damage has been done to the faith and goodwill of Catholics. Mr. Gordon and Mrs. Niles should step away from all forms of social media. Here's Matt, here is the real catch 22 on this. There are people out there that they're grasping for straws to get viewers, and most of what they're saying, and believe me, I've seen a lot of stuff, is false. It really is. How do you combat against that when there's a group of people that just keep going after you and keep going after you and keep going after you? How do you combat that? By staying silent? And it's just a small group of people that's doing it. You know, they've come after me. Anybody that's been on X can see what they've posted about me. And it's how do you combat against that? Seriously. Last I checked, CM is a 501(c)(4), not a standard 501(c)(3), which makes it a PAC, a political action company, able to engage in discourse of political and social issues and raise money for campaigns. That's absolutely right and true. St. Michael Media, as we have covered in my podcast with Christine Chrisley, who has an extensive background in nonprofit work and fundraising. She went through this. If you missed that, it is The Smoke of Satan inside of Church Militant. And she goes through this. So Church Militant was changed to a 501(c)(4) so that they could talk more about politics and news stories around politics. St. Michael Media remained the 501(c)(3). Hard to fathom Michael would be that dumb to send pictures like that to an employee. Yeah, I agree with you, Craig. Sometimes this is the behavior of someone that wants to get caught. I don't know what was in Michael's mind for doing this, why he would upload those pictures to a Dropbox so that we all had access to. I don't know what was in his mind to do that. I can only report that that's what happened. So no idea, Craig. Joe's 50% owner of Truth Army. I have no idea. No idea at all. Did Voris fall after or near the time that he did an interview of Ali Akbar? That guy is a pedo, but yet CM Church Militant interviewed him and inside the chapel. Um, I have no idea what the timeline is of Michael's fall. It could have been recent. It could have been going on for years. I have no idea, and I can't speculate on that. Gracie says, what time are you on Sunday? Will you be broadcasting at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Sunday? James said, Vorsa's self-absorption became his undoing. Others at Church Militant would naturally be afraid to confront him. Even his attire changed on air. Susan says, all very tragic. A few years ago, Michael Vors did an interview with Alice von Hildebrand, a very devout woman. He did. It was a really good interview, too. Yeah, it's just sad. Mr. Coleman says, the fact that Niles left is very telling of the status of Church Militant. That is very true. You have to understand, she's been with Church Militant for a very long time, an avid supporter of the mission of Church Militant and of Michael Vors. So maybe that's why I can cut her some slack. Do you understand, what it feels like? Well, you may know what it feels like as a viewer of Church Militant to feel betrayed by all of this that has happened. It's a real slap in the face, right? Can you imagine? This is a woman who dedicated her career to Church Militant. And I knew when she made that video statement right after Michael made his statement, I've never seen Christine that angry. And I knew there was something more that was fueling that anger. And it's because she felt betrayed. And you know, she worked at that company for a long time. Like I said, believed in it, believed in Michael, only to be betrayed. Let's see. So who is left at Church Militant? So I'll try to list as many as I can because I know that they hired some new people after I left, so I don't know their names and who they are. One of their best editors, Adrian, is still there. Their other best editor, Danny, resigned when all of this broke. Um, well, actually, she resigned after Michael had after Michael did a pit meeting, asked everybody to stay after work and did a 2.5 hour screaming session of everyone about everything that they were doing wrong and they weren't committed and yada, yada, yada. And, they had to endure that for 2.5 hours and she resigned after that. So Adrian is still there. Rodney is still there. Brad is there. Stephen Wynn is there. Mary McCann, the receptionist, and a board officer is there. Mike Sherry, who is manager of IT, is there. But it's my understanding there's no one left in his IT department. I could be wrong. There might be one other person. But the IT people left. The marketing department all left. There might be one person left in marketing. It's very, 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 from what someone had told me, I think there might be 12 left out of the 65 that was originally there when I was there. Is there a possibility that Michael is not the person who uploaded the photos to the Dropbox account? No, it would have came from his phone, his company phone. So Dub Higgs says, how can anyone listen to this self-righteous gossip? Well, Dub, you don't have to watch. It's as simple as that. It's funny that when you give people facts, then they say, I want evidence. And then when you give them evidence, they say, it's gossip. Dub, you don't have to watch, sir. Didn't Charles Hornaker quit? All right. So forgive me, JM, but the head of production, his name was Charlie. I just can't remember his last name, but he's still there. Charlie is still there. Is Paul Morano still there? No. So all of the evening news people were let go. Paul Morano was let go. This was back in March of 2023. Paul was let go. Christine Chrisley was let go. Kim Tizer was let go. And a bunch of other people. 30% of the staff was let go. So there's a bunch of comments, as you can see, about Michael's abuse. I'm just not going to go into it. All I know about Michael's abuse is what E. Michael Jones put in his book, The Man Behind the Curtain. That's all I know. And I don't even know if that's credible. Have there been allegations of sexual assault? If not, that's a very good thing. If sexual assault is not a part of this turmoil, then there is just equivalent to a bad corporate breakup. Okay, Archangel, there has been no allegation of sexual assault. A sexual abuse can be grooming too. So there's been verbal abuse, there's been emotional abuse, there's been grooming, there's been sexual abuse, but not sexual assault. So there's been no allegations of that with Michael. CM is finished. Michael Vorse and his cronies made their money, fleeced their gullible supporters, and have been exposed as huge hypocrites. Well, let me address this first one. Michael Vorse and his cronies made their money. I wouldn't necessarily put it that way because they have the New Hampshire lawsuit hanging over them, which may bankrupt Church Militant. It may put them under. You got to realize that a lot of the supporter and donor money went to the set of the studio for evening news and the lawsuits. Did I agree that they should have sued Michael Parrott? No, I don't believe that they should have sued Michael Parrott. I think Michael should have just walked away from that one. I've not understood that one at all. Um, the city of Baltimore, that was all the time. Remember, that was during that whole time where, our free speech was being taken away from us. So they went after the city of Baltimore on free speech, on the principle of free speech. I was there when all of that was going on. But the chances of them recouping money from that lawsuit that they did win is years down the road if they recoup any of it. So I don't know if they have gotten any payment from that at all, but I would not say Michael Voris and his cronies made their money. I would not say that. Do you believe Michael is still pulling the strings even today? Yes, I do believe that. I found out something today that I need to substantiate first with one other source to see if it's true. And if I can, then I'll bring you more news around that. Christine Niles stated that she gave her resignation to the board before Michael Voris was asked to resign. It was important for her to state that. Well, that's true. It would be important for her to state that. And she also resigned from the board months before she resigned from Church Militant. So, yes, it is important to state that she did resign before Michael Voris. Don't be naive. No, Niles was forced to resign or be fired. No, I don't believe that. Don't believe that at all. From multiple sources, I don't believe that. There. If MV behavior were done in corporate America, he would just be reprimanded by HR. That is not true. So let me tell you a story where um, one of my peers had emailed around a salty joke. It was just a joke, and it was pretty salty and vulgar, and he was fired the next day. Let me tell you another story. One of the leaders at a company I worked for was drunk. It was as a result of a company party, was drunk, took a selfie of himself, and instead of sending it to his wife, he sent it in a group text to all of us. He was fired the next day. So I don't think he would be reprimanded. If this happened in the corporate world, he would be fired. Who walked out last Friday? It was Monica Drope, Michael Drope. Monica Drope was in marketing. Michael Drope was the IT manager that reported to Mike Sherry, who was the only one that knew how their network worked. He walked out. I heard that he was asked to stay to train Mike Sherry, but he didn't. Um, let's see, Alex, who was involved in the resistance program, I think he was one that walked out. And I can't remember who the rest were. Sorry. If you watch David Gordon's video, he kind of went through that. And I'm sorry to deflect you, Lori, over to his video, but he laid it all out there. I will say the people that were fired were Ronan, who was a videographer, of course, David Gordon. Oh, now I'm drawing a blank. I'm drawing a blank, guys. Sorry. Is Michael the poster boy proven one's sexual orientation cannot be changed? Well, I wouldn't say so. I've shared before that I have several gay men that are friends. And I'm one of these people that, I have a couple of friends that only have friends with Catholics. I have friends in all aspects of the world: Protestants, Jewish people, atheists. Um, I can be friends with everybody. They don't just have to be Catholics. I try to walk Jesus's walk, where he talked to everybody. He was always trying to convert people, right? He just didn't stick with the apostles. But two of my gay friends that I've known for years, um, one has been celibate for quite a while, 20 some years. The other one has been a shorter time. And also I want to address here too. I'm a heterosexual female who has been unmarried since 1987, 87, 88. And although I didn't live a chaste life all the time, the last 20 plus years, I've lived a chaste life. I don't know why we think it's harder for the same sex community, same sex attraction community, as we do, why we think it's harder for them than heterosexuals. Living 20 plus years chaste is hard. There's no doubt about that, whether you're heterosexual or homosexual. So, I don't know. My gay friends don't try to change their sexual orientation. They just don't engage in it. And that's a choice. That's aligning your will with God's will. What happened to Milo? I reached out to Milo and we were going to talk, and then that didn't happen. So I am going to continue to contact Milo. He just may not want to talk about it. If Christine Niles is such a furor, could she be suffering PTSD from being groomed in her own way? Well, I don't know if I shared this on a podcast or with a friend, but I felt like I suffered from PTSD after I quit Church Militant. Um, I talked to one of my therapist friends that works with us through the Rachel Vineyard retreats, and she felt like that I was suffering from PTSD. So that could be. That could be. And you know what? I think Christine is going to come out and talk about it, but let's just give her some time, everyone. Okay. Let's just give her that kind of mercy, to give her some time to come, to get. I mean, think about this. Her whole world has been rocked, has been shaken to the core. I was talking to my son, and I said, how would you like to wake up and be 68 years old and realize your entire life has been one big lie? You find out that the corporate media has just been one propaganda tool after another. You find out the governments lie to you. You find out that your own church, Catholic Church, has been covering up its spending for sex abuse. I mean, I remember that day not too long ago that I was like, was anything I lived through in the last 68 years true? It can shock your world. And then they have this happen with Church Militant, and then turn around and have it happen to Coalition of Canceled Priests. I mean, it's like, Lord have mercy, what's going on? Let's see. S- Church Militant asked for donations, which ended up going to pay lawyers to defend against lawsuits, just like the church. There you go. Bingo. Bingo. And the other thing, too, I've had, you know, donors come forward to me to tell me their story. And, some of them gave substantially to evening news to help buy the equipment. And then evening news goes under. It's they're reeling from that too. Now, of course, they can still use that equipment, but it's not really what they planned on doing with it. Yeah, Archangel, this is a really good point. Like a successful rock group breaking up, the talented and committed people can leave, form a new group, and continue the mission. You're exactly right. And, in my corporate world, I saw this a lot, when there were things that just wasn't sitting right in the corporate world. Those of us that had the foresight could see what was going on and could leave. And the others were like rats on a sinking ship trying to get out as fast as they could. How about the fact the employees were paid low wages, Force was given big pay raises? Yeah. That was that was a controversy. And like someone else asked me if I thought I was being paid a living wage. I'm um a 68-year-old woman who I'm getting Social Security plus being paid by Church Militant. So that in itself elevated my income, but at the same time, Detroit was so much more expensive than Indianapolis that um, it was going to be tight for me. So people that are living up there, like David Gordon and Ryan Siebold, who is still there, an excellent videographer, they have large families. How are they going to support those families at a low wage income? What was Forrest's salary? Well, it went from, I think it was on the 990s, it tells you. And I think his income went from 54,000 in 2017 to over 100,000 um to 100,000 in 2021, I believe it was. So those of us that's been in the working world, we never got that kind of an increase in such a short period of time. So I don't know what it is now. But there was a huge gap in what he was paying and then the last line 990, I believe, was 2021. Sorry, Rick says, sorry, but these people at CM have lost all credibility. Thank you for your thoughts, Rick. I understand completely. Where can the photos of Force be viewed? I showed one on my other broadcast. I don't have it right now to show it to you again. As far as I know, the other photos were never leaked and were never put out in the public domain, and nor should they be. They're X-rated. During the 2-hour rants, where were all the men protecting the women from this hysterical child? Didn't they attend the masculine weekend workshop? I don't believe they had those at Church Militant. Good question, though. Good question. And the sad thing is, what happened is everyone that was trying to vie for Michael's attention started acting like Michael and having their own screaming sessions at their own people. That was the real tragedy of emulating the boss, that trickle-down effect. It is good to talk this out. I do not see this as gossip. Not discussing an issue like this only amplifies the evil. Evil hates discourse. Thank you, Archangel. That's true. And the other part of this discussion is, you know, if you don't talk about it, then it's like you're hiding it. You're acting like it doesn't exist. Like, look the other way. It's not happening. And when you have people like me, like other people, like Christine Niles' statement, and other people that have come on the broadcast, like Christine Chrisleep, and the person that will be coming on Sunday, these are real stories, folks, that we personally saw, that we personally are talking about. This isn't because somebody heard gossip here or there and piecing things together and making assumptions. Right? So good point, Archangel. Can you explain what this resistance program is all about? That keeps coming up. Resistance was a faction within Church Militant for, people like you and me to get involved in our community to promote and to look for kind of a watchdog group. Does that make sense? If you find out something is going on in your community, that you want to be able to step in and flush out the truth and the corruption. There you go. Right. Stephen, Christine, have you heard of any future plans for Church Militant resistance or considerations of replacement for Alex Carzon? I have not. I do know a lot of the members have quit in resistance, but I've not heard about what they're going to do moving forward or who will be taking that over, because it's my understanding, and Stephen, maybe and you can enlighten me. Joe Gallagher left. Well, Marissa was fired, and she was part of resistance. Joe Gallagher left, and then Alex left. He was part of the walkout on Friday. So he's either part of the walkout or he was one that was fired. So I do not know if there's going to be what's going to happen with resistance. They don't have many people left, so I don't know. Okay. Let me read through these, see if there's any more questions. I'm only saying this, I'm only showing this because you said that I look 50ish. Thank you very much. But no, I am 68. I can tell you for a fact. I wish I could tell you something different. All right, let me see. Any more questions? Let me look. You don't look a day over 67. Thank you. I agree with you. Oh my gosh, that was too funny. Okay. Is Bradley Eli the only remaining on-air person at CM right now? Well, Jules, oh, I forgot about Jules. Jules is still the Roman correspondent. Um, David Hessman is still there. Um, so I don't know if Bradley's the only on-air personality. Okay. Do you have an opinion on Dr. E. Michael Jones and his take of wars past and present? I am looking into that, to be honest with you. As I said earlier, I have read The Man Behind the Curtain. I read it, you know, shortly after it was released. Apparently, I didn't think it was too credible because I went to work for him, but there you go. I wasn't too bright, was I? Let's see. What is the New Hampshire suite or suit about? Rosemary, I'm not going to get into great detail because I will not do it justice, but Church Militant broke a story about one of the priests in New Hampshire, and it's either the priest or the bishop has filed defamation claims against Church Militant and Michael Voris. So that's about all I know about it, that I can articulate. Christine, do you have a new pet? Well, for those of you that may or may not know, my little husky Grishka that I absolutely loved, she died in June of this past year. And I'm telling you guys, it was heartbreaking for me. That little dog was, she was a barker. She would alert me all the time. I like that. So some people don't like barky dogs, but if anybody stepped a toe on my grass, she was barking about it. And that helped me alert to see who was in the yard. And she died. My other husky is just mute. I mean, she will not utter a sound at all. They could come in and just totally rob the place and she'd let them in the front door. Um, and she's an old girl like me, and her and I complain about her aches and pains, and she's aging poorly just like me. But I also have two ragdoll cats, Sugar Kitty and Honey Kitty. So that's my pet life. But no, I don't have any new pets. I was looking to buy a Malinois Belgian Malinois dog, and my son keeps talking me out of it because of how intense those dogs are. So I've kind of put replacing, which you can't replace my little Grishka, but getting a new pet on hold for now. Isn't Simon Rafe still at Church Militant? Yes, he is. Um, so I'm going to give a shout out here. Rosary WMD. Hi guys, pray the rosary with me at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Channel Rosemary WMD. Thank you, Rosary. Okay, so lawyers for Dallaire say, Dallaire, that's the name. Thank you. Say the two sat on incriminating texts and emails, destroyed evidence, and even interfered with the testimony of Mark, gosh, forgive me, Ballesteria, that's how you say his name, the key witness who has once again disappeared. All right, so okay, and somebody else said, great rosary with Rosary WMD. All right, you guys, I think I've got to the end here, and I hope I answered all your questions. Please come back on Sunday. I want you to meet the mystery guest and hear the compelling testimony. If I was going to talk about church militant questions that I sent to them that they did not answer, but I may save that for later because we've already in here an hour, almost an hour and a half, and I'm sure you all have dinner to do and things that you've got to do with your families. So I really appreciate your support. I may be monetizing the channel. I've gotten all kinds of criticism that I'm being paid for doing these podcasts. No, I'm not. I'm not monetized. I don't have a Patreon account. I don't have any sponsorship whatsoever. I don't get paid for this. But my challenge my channel, because of you, because of your viewership, your likes, your sharing of my videos, my account is eligible for monetization. I don't know if I'm going to do it yet or not. I've got to look into that. But God bless you all. I really, really appreciate your support. And just remember, right? Eternal life is forever. Got a plan? I hope it's Jesus. Bye-bye.